fast.
Oh, gotcha. Cool.
But
all right.
Well, and here I have some things I can add. We'll just save it for the recording.
Okay. Sweet. All right. Cool.
We're recording now, but we're just doing the this is the warm-up section.
Yeah. Okay.
Calisthenics.
Well, before the introduction, this is the pre-introduction.
The intro to the intro.
Is pre-introduction a word?
It fucking should be.
I think we just broke ground here. We're breaking new ground. Pre-introduction is what this
God, what else is new?
Every week.
All right. So are you guys really into Halloween? I know you used to get really into stuff like this.
I like having ridiculous costumes, and I like to drink, and I like to party, and I like to stay out late. I'm somewhat into the macabre, not as much as like your garden variety goth or horror nerd, but you know, I like it. I like ghoulies and ghosties and goblins, and especially werewolves.
Oh,
good man.
What about you, Wolfman?
I'm not. I don't dress up or anything like that. I probably would if I had people that did that. But once I became an adult, the pattern quickly developed that if anyone threw a Halloween party, there was no way to win, because you're either the asshole who doesn't dress up, or you're the only asshole who does. And yeah, so but pretty much no one I know is single anymore. So that's kind of when the Halloween party goes out the window.
Yeah.
But I do. I like this time of year. I like the holidays. I like I like the tone and the festiveness of it. And yes, I do like the macabre. And I don't think of myself as like a horror guy, but when horror is good, it's like my favorite thing.
Huh.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm Detective Wolfman.
Of course.
That is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the dark, shadowy, mysterious things.
Yeah.
Things that go bump in the night.
Yeah.
Wolfman bumps back.
Oh yeah. Weird things.
I always try to avoid it, but then I find myself getting caught up in it. And then I have to like get festive for the final week. So the next week I'll be like watching horror movies and stuff. But for me, horror movies, they only kind of work once.
Right.
For me. And then afterwards, I just kind of, I don't know why I'm watching this. I know what's going on here. I know what's happening here. You can't trick me.
Yeah.
Especially like the modern horror stuff.
Yeah. Well, especially if it revolves too much around those like startly moments.
Yeah.
It's like trying to ride the same roller coaster twice in a row.
Yeah.
You know when the ooh is coming. Yeah, it doesn't have as much repeat value.
And the old ones, the ones that you rewatch, are really good. And like there's no hokey factor to them.
Yeah.
You know, like where you watch like a cheesy horror movie, you're like, ha ha ha, look at I could see the strings. That's not real. But the really good ones that you like to, you know, like The Exorcist and like tonight's movie, American Werewolf in London. It's like they're not, it's not laughable. So like, I don't know if American Werewolf in London is a kind of a funny movie, but I'm talking about like the special effects. Do you know what I'm saying? So the hokey.
Oh yeah.
This ends up just becoming my go-to movie to watch.
Oh yeah. It's a great Halloween flick.
It's a great one. It is. I don't want to say too much.
Yeah.
But no, it's solid. It's one of my favorites for sure.
Well, like The Exorcist, just this year, kind of, I got over it. Like, it's not that scary. It's really well made, but it's not that scary.
Well, so that's one that like the more I watch it, the less it hits me on like a horror front. But the more I enjoy it just as a technical masterpiece.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
And
know
just a
what movies?
great piece of storytelling.
As I get older, what I consider more to be like an actual horror movie are movies that tap into that grown-up anxiety, like Uncut Gems, or like No Country for Old Men, where
Yeah.
where you like feel for the main character and you're like, oh, this guy's fucked. I can't even watch this. It's freaking me out.
Did you guys see Nocturnal Animals?
Yeah.
No.
The sub story in that, like the story that is like what Jake Gyllenhaal's character has written in book form, you know?
Right.
That is the most like real world horrifying thing I've seen in a while. Like that story is every man's worst nightmare. And then you're watching it and Gyllenhaal does everything wrong and he just makes everything worse.
Oh yeah, that sounds like what I'm talking about. Exactly.
Oh dude, yeah. No, that would
I got to see
definitely
this.
get to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good movie.
What's
It's Tom
Nocturnal
Ford.
Animals.
Yeah.
Nocturnal
Tom
Animals.
Ford. It's actually good. It's really good.
Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds.
I really
Gotta
dug
watch
it.
that.
But yeah, you got to stick with it because it's kind of like three different stories happening and they're just kind of intercut. So when it starts, you might think to yourself, what the hell have I gotten into? I've been tricked. But just wait for it.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I like that. And with that, welcome back to Slothcast, where this is our series Drunk on Movies, where we pick a movie that we like, pick a booze that pairs well with the movie. We drink the booze and talk about the movie. I'm your host, the Sloth Man. With me, as always, is the co-host with the most, Mr. Trevor Beveridge. Trevor, how are you tonight?
I probably could be better, but it's hard to imagine how. I've got that sort of like tingly feeling. I love a holiday episode, so I'm really excited for this one. I'm a little drunk. That helps.
And with us for his first time as a co-host, as an actual co-host, Mr. Mr. Detective Wolfman. He's big, he's scary, he might be the right one to marry. How are you this evening, Detective?
Oh, well, I'm excellent after that introduction. But no, I'm doing very well. I'm kind of on the tail end of a sinus thing, so if I sound a little off, that's why. But yeah, hopefully I won't hack too much into the mic. But I'm great.
Sound effects are cool. Be like a radio play. Tonight we are drinking a Beefeater London Gin, which I was only able to find in a liter form, and we are watching the film An American Werewolf in London, directed by who directed this?
John Landis.
John Landis, cousins to Ivan Reitman. John Landis.
I could. That's interesting because I consider them like arguably like the two greatest directors of comedy. So
yeah. I get it. I always get them kind of mixed up sometimes.
Yeah.
They're
up there.
So Trevor, what can you tell us about Beefeater London Dry Gin? And why did you pick it for the movie?
Sure. Let's just get right into it. I like to do stuff with a sense of place that's rooted in the place of the film when possible. And London was once a huge brewing and distilling center. Less so these days. Throughout the 20th century, a lot of the old breweries and distilleries closed down and got sold off to conglomerates. And a lot of that happens outside of the city now. And probably the most important historic alcohol based in London, England, is London Dry Gin, which has become the pervasive style of gin. If you order gin at a bar throughout most of the world, it'll be in the style of London Dry, which is typified by having a very neutral base spirit as opposed to other styles of gin, like Dutch Genever, which almost is like whiskey with an infusion. This is like vodka with an infusion. It's supposed to be a very neutral base spirit. And the style was developed in the 17th or the 19th century, sorry, in London with the advent of the column still. They were able to create a dry, neutral base spirit with which to do a traditional gin infusion, which had been a part of spirits for centuries before that. And what that means is botanicals, chiefly and primarily the juniper berry. That's the main flavor of gin. Of all the famous gin distilleries, which all do London dry style because that's become the main style, the only one still distilling in London is Beefeater. Tanqueray, Bombay, etc. They've all left. So Beefeater is one of the originators of the style. So Beefeater is an OG, and it's the only one that stayed true to its London roots. It's the only London dry gin that's made on a mass commercial level. There are craft distilleries that make them in London now, but it's the only one left in London. So you got the London part right there. This is the spirit of London in a bottle. Now, what does it have to do with the other aspects of an American Werewolf in London? There's a few things about gin that remind me of lycanthropes. First, the juniper berry itself, the chief flavor of gin, tastes of the forest to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's very piney. The gin to me reminds me of the woods, the forest, the botanicals in it. Take me to the realm of the werewolf.
Nice.
Secondly, I view gin and all botanical spirits as sort of a form of witchcraft.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
The techniques behind gin and absinthe and other botanical spirits go back to the origins of distilling. When it was invented, arguably, there are a few origins in different parts of the world, but if you trace back the lineage of European distilling, it goes to Muslim scholarship, and they didn't drink, but they used it for medicine, which is still the case. A lot of medicine has an alcohol base still today. So that gin and other botanical spirits have a bit of an eerie, ooky Halloween element to me for that reason. And then lastly, I feel like the Wolfman mythology, which is one of the oldest hocus pocus, spooky ooky Halloween myths. It goes back, I think, to like BC. If you trace the roots. Yeah.
It goes back to the Greeks.
Yeah, exactly.
At least in the West.
So, right, exactly. There's parallel mythologies for sure. And I think a lot of it, the idea of changing into a savage beast under the full moon, it reminds me of becoming dangerous, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, becoming dangerously and obnoxiously drunk. And of all distilled spirits, I feel like gin is one of those that can really get you to turn into the Wolfman. Yeah, if you drink too much, obviously. And it just goes down so easy.
It does.
A gin and tonic, for example, is one of the most drinkable concoctions ever devised.
Yeah,
it's such a great starter drink if you want to get a child drunk, or perhaps a teetotaling friend. It has all the elements that you want in a cocktail. It's a little sweet, it's a little bitter. If you add some lime, that brings in the acidic component, and the botanicals in the gin make it complex. So it's basically everything you want from a cocktail that anyone can mix with 2 bottles.
Did you say if you want to get a child drunk?
He did.
Yes.
My history with Tanqueray with gin goes back to when I was a child. I was about 16.
Oh.
And I was told if you don't quit school, you're going to be like held back until you're 20. So what I did was I went to a sort of prep for GED tutor thing for 4 hours and then had to have a part-time job after that. That was the deal. And for that, I was in Hawaii. At that time, it was like there in Florida, they would give you an actual diploma, not a GED. So it was equivalent to you would get a high school diploma. You wouldn't get a GED. And before class would start, there was a Safeway, and I used to go in there and steal donuts and Tanqueray gin. I don't know why. It's just like it's just what I was drawn to. So I'd steal Tanqueray gin. I would keep that in my sock drawer or something, and I would drink that on the weekends and then go out off base. We lived on the military base. I'd go off base and catch the bus into like Honolulu, where there was a movie theater that would play weird movies. But that was like not weird movies. They just played like Blow and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That was like the only theater that would play movies like that.
Yeah.
Everything. So yeah, that was my first introduction to being, I guess, day drunk. It was like 16 years old, drinking Tanqueray.
Well, talk about the spirit of London with you, prancing around like the Artful Dodger, stealing gin and sweet little donut treats and running off to the movie theater.
Yeah, what a scam.
Yeah, for real.
I got caught stealing the donuts. I didn't have the booze on me, but I got caught just stealing the donuts. And then the security guard was like, "What do you got?" Like, show up and empty your pockets. It was like donut, in both pockets. And he took the donuts and was just like, "Get out of here." I was like, "Oh," it was quite embarrassing, but
it's a growing experience.
Anyway, I think when I was getting into, I used to really be into werewolves as well. And so I've always, they're kind of like my favorite horror creature, I guess, would be the Wolfman. And but I always kind of likened that too to like getting blackout drunk and doing some fucked up shit that you shouldn't be doing, and then kind of waking up in this, like the werewolf is always like his energy is depleted when he changes back. Just like how you feel when you're hungover. Yeah. So maybe this werewolf thing was like a mixture of people drinking and also people just being batshit crazy and not being, nobody like really noticing until something goes wrong. But I didn't know. Yeah, it does. This gin is very drinkable, especially with the tonic. That's what I got going on. And it does taste like earthy and rustic kind of. Yeah. It's a benchmark. I don't necessarily think it's the best gin. I think it might be the best gin for the money. I think compared to other products at its price range, it smokes them. It's overproof, which I believe a London dry gin should be. It used to be 47%. Recently, they lowered it to 44%, but that's still higher than your standard 40% liquor, which is part of and another reason why gin's so damn dangerous. One more thing about it is just relating it to the film. The term Beefeater to me, it has that ravenous quality that reminds me of the Wolfman, although it's named for the guards of the crown jewels who are known as Beefeaters. Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's who's depicted on the front of the label.
Yeah.
Who better to guard the crown jewels than the Wolfman?
The new label is really shit. Like the old label used to have like the guy, he looked like the guy, like the colors and everything.
Yeah.
And now it's just
you're right.
Bland.
This product's taken a couple of knocks recently because they lowered their proof and cheapened their label. But as long as they keep their price is low, I'll still keep buying it here and there.
I was only able to find a liter, 1 liter, and it was $35. How much was yours?
Oh,
Did you get 375
Ooh.
or
I
what?
think it was like 17 bucks for a 750.
7. Whoa.
Damn.
Yeah. So
That's
that's New York again, man.
There's New York for you. And so the Wolfman, you are abstaining from drink.
Yes.
And drugs as well?
Well, I don't really do drugs anymore. I was never big into them anyway. But yeah, it's just booze. Coming up on October, I was thinking, I should probably take a break and sober October, might as well do that. But then I didn't drink the week before October started, and a buddy of mine is getting married a week into November. And so I figured, oh, that's perfect. I'll get a good 6-week drought, come back strong at a wedding, make a fool of myself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Turn into a werewolf at a wedding.
Of course, it's the best time. So it's unfortunate timing, but a little bit. I think Providence is at work here because I historically cannot stand gin.
Okay.
But after your description, I kind of want to give it another shot. So I think at this wedding, I'm going to start with a gin and tonic and see if I can't be converted.
Yeah, give it the old college. Truth be told, gin's not my favorite spirit either.
Mhm.
I think part of it is because I used this cologne, 4711, the original cologne, by the way. And it smells exactly like gin. So whenever I'm drinking gin, I feel like I'm drinking cologne. It's kind of gross, but I drink it anyway because
I got some,
scholarship. I have to study everything.
Yeah. You're a man of your craft.
Exactly. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, so I am abstaining. But the good news is hopefully I won't be a maudlin, embarrassing mess for the last 15 minutes of this episode like I was for The Hustler.
Yeah, you can babysit, dude. You can babysit.
You can be Mo this week. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'll see if I can keep us on the rails.
That was what happened
please.
with the last episode, where the guy just became our babysitter for the last 10 minutes of, and I think that if you want to be the designated driver, Wolfman, that would help.
Sure. Yeah. What do you need?
I'm gonna need some beef jerky. I'm gonna need like some chips. So
I got all that.
All right. So
Beefeater and beef jerky.
Beefeater and beef jerky. So you guys are particularly into werewolves? Didn't we establish that?
Yeah, I think
we're all pretty much big fans of the werewolf.
Yes, obviously in my case.
Right. And then the Nords, they had like the berserkers, the guys who would turn into bears, but they also had guys that would turn into wolves as well.
Well, if you're talking strictly man becoming wolf, I think the earliest representation of that we know of is the Epic of Gilgamesh. But then if you're talking like werewolf proper, like a man becoming a beast man, I think those legends in the West, I think the first ones that we know of, are ancient Greece and Rome. And for any of the right-wing esotericists out there who listen to this, Herodotus, a favorite in those circles, has written about the Wolfmen. So there's that.
Weren't there also like they called Nazis werewolves?
There was definitely a lot of werewolf iconography, but I don't know if that was going on during the war or if that was applied post-war, in 70s exploitation fiction.
Oh yeah, like Ilsa,
like werewolf women of the SS.
Yeah.
But they did have the like wolf lapels and stuff, like along with the eagle and the skull that they wore a lot.
So the werewolves were the like guerrilla resistance, the Nazi like guerrilla resistance.
Okay.
So they were like after the war, you would have the werewolves. who were like still fighting for Nazi Germany. I think that's what this is implying. But because I had heard that, yeah, the history of shadowy werewolf guerrilla bands formed at the end of the Second World War as a last desperate defense of Nazis. Yeah, so there's a book on it called The Last Nazis.
Oh man, someone with werewolf needs to make a movie about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fucking that's a role reversal right there, dude. Yeah. Wow.
Someone call Zoller and get him to make that movie.
Well, did you see that? Did you see that Vincent Gallo? He's in the movie. It's not his movie, but it's about him being in a Taliban fighter who like escapes, and he's like
the American Taliban.
Well, no, like in Afghanistan, like he's like an American Taliban.
Yeah, the guy who like fought with them, right? Yeah,
it's kind of about that. It's like about a guy like that who gets he's going to prison somewhere. You know, he's going to Guantanamo or something. The plane or bus crashes, and then he's sort of mortally wounded, and then he kind of traps this woman in her house.
Now we're talking.
And and he kind of like, you know, he's wanting her to like heal him and everything. I forget what that movie's called, but yeah, that's what would remind me if they did like a guerrilla Nazi thing. But I had heard about these werewolves, these Nazi werewolves before, so I was wondering where that stemmed from. But it seems like so it seems like a lot, the bulk of werewolf lore comes from France and a little bit in sort of like Germany or Norway or something, and then Britain, but mostly it's from France, like the legends, stuff that we kind of know, except for the silver stuff or like full moon thing. That's kind of like modern lore. Yeah. But people were tried back in the day, like in the 14th century, 15th century, of being werewolves, and they were burned at the stake.
Yeah, they were like male witches or something.
Right. There was parallel to witchcraft, which kind of goes back into what you were saying about the pairing, because if these crazy bitches were just making this brew and giving it to dudes, and they'd just be like, whoa, like all fucked up, then they would be like, that's the witch's werewolf right there.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
I was just going to say really quick that I always wonder how much, like, because so many things were assigned a supernatural explanation in those times. Yeah. I was like, maybe some of these people were just kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah. He's a werewolf. Kill him.
Yeah, exactly, Gary. He keeps getting drunk and starting fights.
Yeah, he's a werewolf. Burn him alive, please, now.
Yeah.
Could be, but what's interesting about a lot of that is that people have this perception that when that was going on, it was just like, you know, backward peasants in the middle of nowhere, but acting off of superstition and whatnot. But a lot of this was coming down like from the Vatican, from the High Catholic Church during a period. I mean, it may have been right before, but during a period of like relative advances being made in science and technology. But meanwhile, like the high authorities are the ones who have this legitimate concern about this, to the point where I don't know how widespread it was, but it was kind of common practice for a long time that when you buried someone, to build a cage around the coffin so they couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Like almost like a crow's cage. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder, as we often do, especially as people are obsessed with cryptids and whatnot in this day and age. I wonder where the line between truth and fiction starts to blur.
Yeah, and there was that thing that you were talking about, burying them. you're talking about burying them kind of like in a cage.
Mhm.
And this is going on during, I guess it's the Middle Ages, Dark Ages, or whatever. Like, but I'm reading this book by Tom Holland about Christianity's like impact on the Western
Spider-Man, Tom Holland.
No, British historian. He's a good writer. I like his
All
stuff.
right.
But it's a book called Dominion, and it's about Christianity's like influence over how big this like revolution of Christianity was. And so, but when I read that, and then I think about what was going on, like you were saying, from like the Vatican on down, it's like, wow, they really kind of fucking lost the way there, man. You're going to like help the poor, help the needy too. We need to burn this werewolf because, you know, like, it's like they kind of lost the fucking thread. Like, oh, wait a minute.
Lost the plot there.
Yeah, lost the plot there, burning witches and werewolves. And
but in their defense, when was the last time you got fucked with by a werewolf or a witch?
Ah, it's true.
Yeah.
And without all those stake burnings, I don't think we'd have the holiday we love today, Halloween.
Right. And I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. Given the mess, the hell that we're all living in this modern world, I think is a direct result of a lack of some burnings at the stake that we probably could have used.
Yeah.
At least threatened with.
Yeah.
At least you wouldn't even have to burn them. You just burn the stake.
just smack them around a little.
No, just set the stake on fire.
Like a ribeye?
Yeah. You set a steak on fire, and then they go, "Oh, that's scary. I'm gonna go home."
Yeah,
Like a big
well done
killer.
steak is scary.
Yeah, it is. It's true. If you overcook the steak, it's not. It's no good. Defeats its whole purpose. When
Yeah,
you do that, defeats its whole.
it's a waste. Yeah, that's no way to be a beef eater.
Nope. So the Ivan Reitman movie, American Werewolf in London.
No.
John Landis,
Sorry. The
the
starring
insufferable John Landis.
starring is it John Leguizamo and it was like David David Naughton, who comes from the who what's the song called? Making it.
Oh, I thought you were gonna do the Dr. Pepper song.
He does the Dr. Pepper song, but he's also has that song, I'm making it. Whoa,
Oh yeah.
whoa. Yeah.
What a weird guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I just assumed he was an actor. The only other thing I've ever seen him in was that episode of Seinfeld where he plays the alcoholic, coincidentally.
Oh shoot, I didn't even put that together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
We also have Griffin Dunn. I
The
believe
great
After
Griffin Dunn.
Hours.
After Hours. Yep. He's the nephew of Joan Didion.
Oh, I didn't know
I did
that.
not know that.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
He's sort of
He
like
steals every scene he's in this movie.
he is, but he seems like he was such a pansy on set. He was like really upset. Like, to be honest though, I watched a lot of these special features before we did this, and you know, if you know what happens with John Landis's story arc, his career, you can see when you watch the behind the scenes, you can see where a lot of this shit is starting. So they could only film at this one place up north in London, and it was beyond freezing out. And he had that actor who gets shot in the beginning, who's the werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
He's like an elder. He was like in his 50s out there. It was so cold that they said that there was like clumps of snow in there. It was raining, and they made it rain. They did like the fake rain, but it was freezing in their hair and on their jackets. And they had Griffin Dunn out there getting torn apart by this puppet.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of every take, Landis wants people to go, "Hi, David. Hey, David. Hi, David." Just do that.
Mm-hmm.
And Griffin Dunn was like, "I'm like, fuck you, David. Fuck you. What the fuck am I doing here? This is fucking bullshit." So he I don't think he really liked his. He gets locked in like an outhouse, and like one guy drives the trailer 45 minutes away from set, and it just sounded like it was like his first big gig, but it sounded like he had like the worst time on the thing.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But he does steal every scene.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm kind of torn because I mean, on the one hand, yeah, if I was Griffin Dunn, that sucks. But on the other hand, if the finished product is good, I support whatever heinous, abusive shit that a director does.
Yeah.
It's all worth it in the end.
These were young guys, you know, they were
Yeah.
young. They were kids. They could kind of keep, maybe the guy who was in his 50s shouldn't have been out there. But there's other stuff like that where it was like, the makeup stuff was really uncomfortable for them. I don't know. It does. It's what I'm saying is that with the behind the scenes thing gives you is this like, oh, okay. So he was kind of, because he's not like a Milius guy, right? He's not like rough and tumble. Like he's not going hunting. He's just like, he wants these people to do this thing because he thinks it's funny. Yeah. But he's like dressed like a preppy dude. He's wearing like a fucking sweater vest and he's dainty, you know, tender fingers, I'm sure, you know.
I definitely get the feeling that if the tables were turned, that John Landis would buckle and would immediately be pitching the biggest fit that you can imagine.
Yeah, it's when you see Francis Ford Coppola
or John Landis. Did I say Milius?
It's okay. I don't know.
I'm not even drinking.
When you see Francis Ford Coppola in Apocalypse Now, and he lost like 100 pounds, just sweating all of it out. He's like in the muck and in the mud, and he's just like, he looks like he's losing his fucking mind. And then you look at John Landis, and he's just like,
okay, I'm going to defend that. I'm going to defend Landis a bit here. Right. The helicopter incident, you know, notwithstanding.
He decapitated Jennifer Jason Leigh's father. That was her father. He cut his head off.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I knew someone died. I didn't realize it was Jennifer Jason Leigh's dad.
I think so. I could be completely full of shit.
Yeah, I apparently I didn't. Yeah. But so I'm a big John Landis fan. I don't think you can argue with his body of work.
Mm-hmm.
At least until like the 90s.
Okay. Yeah.
But
sure.
Yeah. He actually starred in his first movie, Schlock. I don't know if you guys have seen Schlock.
I have not.
So Schlock is almost like a companion piece to this because this is one of the first scripts he ever wrote. He wrote it when he was, I think, like 19 or 20, which explains why it feels so much like a teen movie, at least to me. Like I'm scoring with the babe and all this crazy stuff's happening while I'm backpacking.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the first scripts he wrote. The first movie he made, he wrote and directed, and I think this is the only other movie he wrote and directed like fully. Was called Schlock.
Yeah,
and it's big. It's similar. It's like a Bigfoot movie. Like it's almost like Teen Wolf in a sense, but it's the super low budget, self-directed, self-produced movie where he becomes like this ape man and terrorizes this like town and this high school. And he didn't have enough money for a good ape suit. And you could even see the zipper in some scenes. And it was so hot in the suit. And he played Schlock. He was in the suit that he would pass out.
Didn't Rick Baker do that though? Didn't he do the makeup for that?
Oh, I don't know.
I think he did.
For Schlock?
Yeah. I think that's
I know
where they
Landis
met.
Landis is in the suit.
I know. Yeah. I think I think they mentioned that in that behind the scenes.
Oh, really?
Thing. Yeah.
So I guess that's a roundabout way of saying that he would abuse himself and has.
Yes.
Maybe so.
Yeah. All right. Early on. Okay. I'll allow it. What was your first introduction to this movie? I'll tell you mine. My introduction was as a child. I was too young to be watching this. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched Griffin Dunn being torn apart. And he did such a good
Yeah.
job at that. It seemed so realistic at that time when I was a kid. Even when I watched it years later, it was still like, oh, it's very visceral. His performance in it in particular. And the way that the sound in this movie is really great. All the snapping of the jaws, it's like blown out in the speakers. And that's what it sounds like when he's being torn apart. And I just remember that fucking with my head forever as a kid. Because it just looked like, oh, no, you can't. What? I've never seen that before, being torn apart by, that was pretty. What about you guys?
I watched it in college when I first kind of I first kind of put together all the movies Landis did, and that's when I watched Schlock too. It's like, oh, the same guy did like Thriller and the Blues Brothers and Trading Places and all this stuff, and I was like, whoa. And that's kind of where I learned about how if you put it all together, he probably is a better comedy director than a horror director, but you could tell that that's his love. I think his horror. Yeah, this is like one of his first screenplays, his first movie. And I mean, it's a comedy too, but rooted in cheesy horror. I think it's one of the first movies of its kind, like that's supposed to be like sort of like tongue-in-cheek cheesy, but with a craftsman's touch. Yeah, I think like the transformation scenes I think are legitimately excellent. They have a half cheesy aspect to them, like I think like pre Sam Raimi or like some of Peter Jackson's early work.
Yeah, that's a good call. Wolfman.
Well, so kind of piggybacking off what we were talking about earlier, and my love of werewolves and wolfmen. So certain things in your life you kind of latch on to. You remember, oh, the first time I saw this, or the first time I did this. I don't remember first becoming aware of werewolves. I remember the first time I saw Batman, but I don't remember certain things were just always there. Godzilla was always there. Star Wars was always there, and werewolves were always there. So in a way, you could say that on the day I was born, the Wolfmen were waiting for me. They always fascinated me, and I always liked monsters as a kid, but werewolves more than anything else. If I was watching TV and flipping channels and saw anything that looked like a werewolf, I had to stop and learn what it was. If I was in the library and there were books, I would seek out werewolf stuff. As a kid, I would buy books that I was too young to read, like before I even was into reading. But I could tell they were werewolf books. And so it's like, well, I want to have this when I'm ready for it. And in the same sense, I don't remember the first time I saw this movie. I know that I know that my dad showed it to us because he knew that I was crazy about this stuff, and he was a big Landis fan. The Blues Brothers is a big movie in our family, but I couldn't for the life of me tell you the exact time, the exact event. But yeah, this movie. Yeah, it was just, it was always there. And yeah, a big part of my and love for werewolves.
Yeah, when I was like when I was young, I was like a chubby kid, and we moved around a lot. So I got picked on a lot. And I would be in the library, you got to pick out a book from a library, and I'd find these books on werewolves. And I don't know where that I think I know where it was. Teen Wolf. Teen Wolf was like one of the first movies I ever watched as a kid. So to me, always so like with clowns, like my parents, my mom and my grandma would take me to like clown night at the local diner. So I like clowns, and then with werewolves, I associate clowns with happy things, and so I associate werewolves with like Michael J. Fox and like happy things, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But when I was a chubby kid, I would check out these books on werewolves, and I just kind of got obsessed with this idea of turning into a werewolf. I try to turn into a werewolf. I prayed to Satan to you know what I mean? I was like 13 years old or something.
Holy mackerel.
Over dramatic, like, please turn me into a fucking werewolf. And I think I was turned into a werewolf.
Go on.
Like an alcoholic. No, like I mean, I've had those werewolf moments. This is why we keep talking about, like, sort of orbiting this idea that it comes from these just blackout drunk men who you know, are hooking up with the witch down the street, who's only a witch because she's just super horny and weird. And she's like the modern e-girl. She's like the, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's always reinvented.
Yeah.
But the guys always are drunk and have facial hair, and the women always have some crazy thing going on with their makeup,
septum piercing, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
They collect animal bones.
Yeah,
make
funny
jewelry
hats.
out of them, funny hats. Yeah. That was my that was my sort of fascination with the werewolf. It's interesting too, because it definitely fits my pattern too. The werewolf with the witch, like what I'm attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely fits that.
Well, it was interesting for me because they were I think part of why I loved them more than any other monster was they were the only ones that scared me. I wasn't afraid of vampires because even as a kid, I thought, well, it's, if you try to get your mouth on my neck, I can ward that off. You know, I can fight against that. A guy with a machete, I can run away. I can grab a machete. But something about the werewolf, the power and speed and ferocity of an animal combined with the malice of a black human heart. That was the most frightening thing for me. And growing up, my house, there was a lot of not deep woods around, but enough woods for something to hide in.
Yeah.
And we lived on a quiet street. So at night, when I had to go out and bring the garbage cans back to the backyard, I could feel this lurking presence behind me. And in my head, I would just be like, as long as you don't run and you don't turn around, you'll be safe. But I would always feel that dread, of the werewolf in the woods.
That was me.
Mm-hmm.
I was the fat kid werewolf. You could have outrun me.
It's funny. It's funny. It's funny. You talk about praying to be a werewolf because I remember checking out these books from the library, bunch of werewolf books, and in reading them, I quickly discovered one of them. I can't remember the name of it. One of them was definitely something I was not supposed to be reading. And I grew up and I was a good Catholic boy. And so I, had full belief in all things mystical and occult. Like it's all real, it's all possible. And I was reading through, this book of werewolves and witchcraft and came across a spell, an incantation, to turn oneself into a werewolf. And I remember feeling tempted to do it. And so I put that book away and did not crack it open again.
And I was all like, well,
and it was fruitless. I was doomed anyway because I became a wolfman in the end, eventually.
He got you, ran you down.
I have a question of semantics that I'm just very curious about Wolfman.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a specific difference between a wolfman and a werewolf?
Oh.
I mean, what is how do those intersect?
Only if you want to be a nerd. So
let's get nerdy.
Let's fine tune this.
There are multiple iterations in fiction and in lore of the werewolf. My least favorite being a man who turns into a wolf, just a normal wolf.
Which that would be the werewolf in this movie.
No, no, because even this, if you saw that, you wouldn't think, oh, that's a wolf that came down out of the woods.
Yeah,
You would
no.
look at that and you would go, that's a goddamn monster.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know,
Okay,
that,
sorry. Yep.
That doesn't exist in nature. Now, it is a quadruped and it's wolf-like, but
Right.
I'm talking just strictly like you go to like when he wakes up in the wolf cage,
Right.
and there are those two wolves. A man who just turns into that.
Which was real, by the way. That was real. Those were real.
Oh, yeah. But so there's a man who just turns into a wolf. That's the least interesting to me.
Yeah.
There is the wolf man, like the Lon Chaney style or Benicio del Toro, which I love. There is the kind of the werewolf, kind of like the underworld or the howling version, where it is a large beast man. And then then you have this, which is very unique. It's this like quadruped hound from hell that they do a similar thing in Ginger Snaps. I'm trying to think if they do it in a few other movies, but those are kind of the popular iterations. So when someone says Wolfman, I imagine a mostly human form with wolf-like characteristics. Yeah, much.
Yeah.
So
like Wolfman would be a biped, I would think.
Yes.
And a werewolf could be both, but usually the werewolf looks like it's got the hind legs of a dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he's still standing upright.
Right.
Or he's a quadruped. So a wolf man would be a biped, I would think, just inherently.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't see a wolf man on all fours.
I mean, yeah, unless he was really, they fucked with that in that Del Toro movie where he really gets running, he goes down on all fours because his legs are triple jointed.
I did not like that fucking movie at all.
So that movie I did not like, but like I liked the rampages. So
yeah. Though of course, it's Rick Baker, wasn't it? Rick Baker.
Yeah.
No, I mean he did fucking. His work is always amazing, but just the story was like, dude, Puerto Rican Wolfman. What
Yes, the whole movie around it was
a Puerto Rican guy. Like he's not fucking.
The movie around it was abysmal and such a wasted opportunity.
Wow, such a wasted opportunity by a competent director. Is it like Neil? Was it?
Jordan? Well, no, it was Joe Armstrong. I think. Not Joe Dante.
No,
who did The Howling?
Right. And
I think
Howling's
or Joe Johnston. It was the guy who did like Jurassic Park.
I think Joe Johnston. I think you're right.
Yeah.
He did. Then he did like the first like Incredible Hulk movie or whatever.
I don't know. I thought that was Ang Lee.
No, not Hulk, but the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about cape shit. We've just ventured.
Yeah. Oh God, we lost the plot.
Yeah, but so this movie, what I really like is that you've got these two American boys who look like aliens. They're wearing the puffy jackets. They walk in.
They're Jews.
They're Jews. They're Jews. Which John Landis also is. Very curious, very interesting. So they end up at the Slaughtered Lamb, and all these guys are wearing like old tweed, waxed. It looks like they're time travelers, really.
Mm-hmm.
And they got some, like country hill cracker British people wish they had something interesting like werewolves going on in their village, but that's what's going on in this village. But I like the idea of these Americans just coming in and then later on fucking up the whole city. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
You guys come in and just demolish the place. Now they said this movie's a comedy. It's usually like shelved in the comedy section, but it took me a long time. I feel like the comedic parts are snickers more than their guffaws.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a smart dry comedy. I feel like almost British in sensibility.
That's true. I'd like very dry, just like this gin.
Oh, hey, another connection. I love it.
So this might lead me to a bit of a tangent. So
go for it.
I mean it's a horror comedy and it's weird. Where do I start? So yes, it does have these comedic scenes. but yeah, they're sparse and very dry, which was kind of like a lot of the popular comedies of the day were like that, because comedy has seasons. You can look at the time that a comedy comes out, and it's usually a certain flavor that you can associate with that decade. You have like the kind of American Werewolf in London, Ghostbusters, Animal House type stuff, and then like in the early aughts, you have like the Apatow 40-Year-Old Virgin type shit. You have the Adam Sandler stuff in between. But what's interesting about this is, yeah, it's tongue in cheek, but when the horror parts happen, they're made to be scary. They're not made to be funny. So it gives you the sense that Landis is taking the horror element seriously. But if you watch interviews with him, he seems to have nothing but smug contempt for horror and horror films as a genre.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I find him insufferable.
He seems that way about anything he's talking about.
Yeah, which I don't know, maybe that's just an affect or it's like his personality, but I can't stand it.
Yeah, he's a
personal
annoying guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, he has that like comic book guy sort of smugness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he'd be making comic book movies.
I mean, like the comic book
guy
guy from The Simpsons, like that sort of
pretentious
pretentious hipster sort of.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely seeing this guy wearing like Adidas Sambas and Dickies khakis and like just shoegazing with his hoodie. Saying how like these guys they don't know what they're talking about. That type of
which
attitude.
is it's so weird that he's like that, because it's like, this is the guy who made Animal House.
Yeah.
Like
right.
these aren't obscure, like smart movies. I love Animal House, but it's a dumb frat boy movie.
It's a broad.
And it's weird.
Movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's very mainstream in its appeal. And it's weird that this sort of pretentious like nerd has the filmography that he does.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's strange because I love this movie. I love the Blues Brothers. Like I'm not trashing the man's body of work.
Right.
But it does seem like just in the snippets that I've seen of him, it seems like someone who is good at a thing, but they think they're great.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And yeah,
he almost seems like he's better than his own. Like he thinks he's better than his own work.
Yeah,
which is kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just like, oh, I don't know why people like this movie. They like it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Great. That's great.
Yeah, like
great.
the Coen brothers are sort of like that too. I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have that same attitude.
But with them, it seems like it's coming from humility. Like they're surprised that people like the weird shit that they make.
Mm-hmm. That could be. Yeah. I
remember. Yeah, and I don't want to spend too much time harping on this, but I remember this was a few years ago. They were doing one of those kind of talking head specials on like A&E or something, but it was like 100 greatest horror movies of all time or something like that. And it's, they're going through these movies and they're having all these talking heads, all these writers and directors and actors in the horror biz. And they're talking about different horror movies. And every time Landis comes on screen, you can't help but like clench your whole body, because he just has this shit-eating grin on his face. And everything he does not give a single film a like genuine compliment. Even movies that are far greater than anything he's ever made, he always has this like underhanded, like backhanded way of talking about them, like he's above it. And it's the most annoying goddamn shit in the world. And every time I watch a movie of his, I kind of can't help but see that now in my mind's eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because, yeah, you're right. The Coen brothers genuinely seem to love the movies that they pay homage to, and you do almost get the sense that Landis doesn't have that same humility, like you said.
Yeah, you think he's from Chicago. A lot of those guys are kind of weird. Chicago people are weird. They're just
Maybe that's it.
It's just a weird, it's just a different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
When going from New York to Chicago is different. They're not. It's not so much like impressed if you're from New York. You know, I don't need anybody to be like impressed for being from somewhere. They're more like, you're from New York, fuck New York. You're like, all right, okay. Yeah. Like I'm just telling you where I'm from, man. It's not like I don't care. There was like when I went to Amsterdam, and they were like, these guys would go out of their way to tell me that they hate America and they hate Obama. I'm like, yeah, dude, like I don't fucking care if you hate my country. What the fuck? I don't even want to go to New York. Okay, that's fine. But all right. So he meets this British dame when he's in the hospital, David, while he's healing from his wounds, and she immediately
been attacked
after being attacked. That's right.
And like you said, it is a great and very effective scene.
It is a great effective scene, and so he's taken to this hospital, and he meets this woman who immediately gets the Florence Nightingale thing going on. Like she was just waiting for it.
Yep.
And I mean, big, tall American man. He's wearing an NYU shirt, like
very fit.
I mean, she is smitten with this man. And he starts to get these like fever dreams, and
the dream sequences are excellent.
They are.
And part of like, you know, everyone who makes a werewolf film kind of, you know, makes it their own and has their way with the lore or the mythology. And the weird touches that he puts on it are excellent. The sense of foreboding and the unknowable that comes with those dream sequences is so haunting, and it's some of my favorite shit in the movie.
Agreed. 100%. It's some of the scariest stuff too.
Yeah. He's a very competent filmmaker. I really, and his little thing that he did with the Twilight Zone movie was also the same sort of, had the same visceralness to it. The same. I don't know. I mean, the dream sequences are good. He's very competent as a director. So aside from him having a punchable face, I guess I really do respect him as a filmmaker. He just gets it's why you can kind of keep watching it, because he gets both those things, that dry comedy, that absurdness, the self-referential stuff, and then he also brings in the fucking scary. And all of that shit was his idea, like throwing the head across the hood of the car, showing the beast coming out on all fours as the guy's going up the escalator, you know, when we first see it, you know. He's really good at what he does.
Well, and to add to that, I remember I watched this movie, I guess it was last year. I watched it with some friends of mine who had never seen it before, and they're John Landis haters as well, just as a person, not his body of work. But they had never seen this, and we start watching it, and you know, it opens and it's kind of fun. Yeah, it's the two guys, they're talking shit, they're talking about, you know, this girl they want to ball and all that stuff. But then I remember, like, in the quiet after the werewolf attack, after Jack gets it, it was quiet in the room, and then they just went, fuck. You know, they were totally caught off guard and not prepared for how effective the horror parts are.
Yeah. And I think it's really difficult to sort of do two genres at once satisfactorily, and this movie satisfactory. Satisfactorily.
He's turning.
He's a beefeater. He's a beefeater.
But this movie does a really good job of being at once scary, funny, and kind of sexy.
Yes, the music is so good. The musical show, Van Morrison and Sam Cooke, Creedence Clearwater, the Marcel.
It's funny because it all has that theme of the moon. Like every song is about the moon or whatever.
Yeah,
which kind of reminds me. Did you guys ever see The Long Goodbye?
Yeah, that's the next episode we're doing is on The Long Goodbye.
Are you serious?
Look at my face.
Oh man,
do I look serious?
Yeah, in The Long Goodbye is a little different, but in The Long Goodbye, the whole movie, it's just that song, different versions of that song over and over again. The Burt Bacharach song.
Yeah, Long Goodbye.
And it happens every day. But yeah, this reminds me of that. Yeah, all the song choices are great, and
all with the ball, the bang, the bang, bang, the bing, the bong, ding, dong.
But yeah, it does. Yeah, man, there is a serious, especially like as I get older, there is a serious sex appeal to this movie that modern movies just completely lack. And so yeah, I've been watching a lot of horror stuff this month, and literally every era before now, there's just so much. And I know movies are fake, but surely there has to be there has to be an element. There has to be an element of truth or representation in this. People are so flirty.
Yeah.
Like they're flirty and they're so down. And like, even if they don't hook up, there's just this like genuine enjoyment between men and women of one another. And this playfulness that is just completely gone from movies now. And often in life, I get it with older women, like chicks who are in their 40s and above, like they're still from that time, and they still know how to have fun. But gals my age and younger are a fucking drag. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it into real life there.
Yeah. Well, they need to watch more old movies, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that could help. I don't know what the solution is.
But you're right, because like what's interesting about the horror and the comedy elements is that they never undercut each other. A lot of times, especially in movies now, there will be a moment that could be effective, and then they make some dumbass joke that completely pulls the rug out from under it.
Well, go ahead.
And that's a way. That's basically the filmmakers being cowards and refusing to ever commit to a moment, and refusing to ever be.
Yeah. Well, now it's like music videos now. Yeah. They're just more like, okay, we got to give them the jump scares. And so the jump scares are coming. I don't know if music videos is the right thing, but it just feels like predictable or something. Mm-hmm. Like there's a formula to the horror movies now. Mm-hmm. And this movie, I think, prevails because it doesn't have a formula. You're not really sure what part you're supposed to laugh at. Sometimes you laugh at him just like being all fucking, you can see his neck and shit. And he's like, oh yeah, can you believe she brought this guy? Gave him a fucking hand job after my funeral. You're like, it's really macabre. And whereas nowadays you don't really get a lot of comedy stuff. It's all kind of got that superhero gloss to it. Even the horror movies have like a superhero gloss where it's like, there's some jokes. This is where you're supposed to laugh. Here comes this jump scare. You know it's coming because we're doing the close-up shot, and it's a close-up tracking shot, so it's quiet. Boof, and then you're like, oh, and it does scare you, but it's like a ride more than it is a story.
Yeah, it startles you.
Yeah,
but with this, for the most part, yeah, the horror lands, the jokes land, the sex appeal lands.
Yeah.
Well, I love the relationship, because it's like every relationship you have with a woman where you're going through some inner turmoil and she's just like, I just want to help you. And you're just like, I don't know what's going on. Like, it's a constant and putting up with the men's shenanigans. What?
There's another
shenanigans.
Shenanigans. It's a combination of shenanigans and antics.
Yeah,
shenanigans.
The worst.
This is the second word we're making up here. Shenanigans.
That sounds like the name of like a black lounge singer in the 70s. Shenantics.
Shenantics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shenantics.
Yeah. Like Dylan Newberry and the Shenantics.
Yeah.
Or some constipation medicine or something.
Sure.
Shenantics. Shenantics is not for everyone. It may cause bloating of the bladder and prostate.
What's interesting is there also another intersection of language is that there's a time where he is not sure if he's becoming a werewolf or a lunatic, and someone uses that exact phrase. And of course, lunatics and werewolves are tied together by the moon, I guess.
Yeah, synonymous.
Which the root of that term. And I love that there's a long period of the movie where you're not sure which he is. And it makes their relationship more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it makes those dream sequences I think more complex to understand.
Like a lot of movies, they'll operate off of a 3-act structure. Some operate off of a 6 or 7-act structure. Like a Tarantino movie is like a 6-act movie. So it's got like 6 acts in it, right? You can kind of even chapters them. This movie's got like 2 acts. And the first half, until he turns, that first is like the first act, whether you don't know if this is like a psychological thriller thing or not. Is he really just going crazy? Was that really a wolf? What's going on? And then the second half of the movie turns into like a monster flick. It's not even like the half of the movie. It's more of like the last 20 minutes of it. Like the last quarter of it is more of the monster movie final act of rampage, the townspeople gather and they kill the guy, a la Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
I never I don't know. I never the act thing I never got the vibe of, is he really turning or is he crazy?
Right.
I always was just 100% all right. This fucker's a werewolf. Right.
But I think the movie turns in that final third into a monster movie.
Oh, definitely.
Whereas it doesn't necessarily get lost in the weeds. It just goes into a love drama that's this impending doom thing coming. When the doom, and then there's like the before doom, then the after, let's say before the horror and after the horror being turning into this beast, which is this physically painful experience, which is still super visceral. And it's how werewolves, it's how wolfmen or werewolves or whatever should be turned, that's how it should look. It should look painful, transforming physically into something different, which is really such a kind of a brilliant take, from the Lon Chaney thing, where it was the editing was boop boop boop, I'm a wolf, and then this is actually if you became a wolf, that shit would fucking hurt because your body is transforming and the bones are breaking so that they can extend. That's still really it's still very disturbing.
Well, I think I would just really quick. you understand he has to become a werewolf because of the title, and it would be really boring if he was just like having dreams and nothing like actually ever happens. But it does its best to treat the subject realistically at first, I guess is what I meant. You know what I mean?
Like it's operating from reality because it's self-referential. It's talking about the Wolfman. It's talking about,
how people would treat you if this happened, if you were in the hospital. And then the transformation itself is as realistic as something like that could be.
Well, and it's very much rooted in American kind of realism. The point of view of David. Like the point of view of David, and also Griffin Dunn as like the ghost being like, dude, you gotta just fucking kill yourself. But it's rooted in this like self-serious, like, what are you talking about? Werewolves? We're gonna turn to a werewolf? It's this American sensibility being brought into, the land of the pagans, basically. That's what all those Anglo-Saxons were, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what all the Brits were. And that's sort of what this ancient world that we're apart from. And so what's the reaction like when your American realism meets this sort of existential metaphysical dread?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Well, and it's also, what's interesting about this is the doctor, who's like one of the best characters in the movie.
Yeah.
He has that line when he's on the phone, and it's a throwaway line, but he says, I survived Rommel. I can survive a dinner with so-and-so. So what people have to understand in the context of this movie, if you're in England in the 70s and you're 40 or older, you remember the war. And if you lived in London, you remember the bombing. Like, the war wasn't something that was happening somewhere else. It was happening around you.
Yeah.
And which I think lends to, especially like once you get into London and you're out of the sticks where the legend still exists, is you're seeing the sort of the superstitions and the beliefs of the old world colliding with the sort of jaded cynicism of the post World War II world. And these people who don't have a fear of the unknown because they believe they've encountered the worst possible thing that could happen.
Yeah, good call. Yeah.
Because what is a werewolf or a lunatic after after the Blitzkrieg,
right?
After the Luftwaffe carpet bombs your city.
The
kills
people like the fucking Holocaust, man.
Mm-hmm.
All that shit, all that, like the horrors that those guys saw,
mm-hmm.
and we're fucking privy to are, compare, and then you tell them there's a werewolf. Mm-hmm. This is why he goes out to that village.
Yeah, well,
he's like, I don't fucking care. I fought fucking the worst evil that's been known to man, is what he's saying in that line.
Mm-hmm. But it's also like a clash of generations too, because you've got David and Jack, who obviously did not go to NOM.
That's true. They're college guys. They're college.
Yeah, so they're college guys. They're almost certainly from affluent families from New York.
Long Island, probably won't Long Island.
Yeah, their experience is nothing like that of the doctors or a lot of the natives of this town.
Right.
Yeah.
And so David's hysteria is brushed off not only as like, oh, well, this is a young man who suffered a trauma, but also it's just like these fucking kids.
Right.
They're always hooting and hollering about something.
Yeah, but like the wolf still acts as this like metaphor. I was talking to low res about this, is about how like the Hitler thing, the Hitler thing, the Nazis and shit was almost like it was, the whole Hitler thing. Some people did some things, and but the whole Hitler thing was kind of like not abnormal, meaning like genocide is not that abnormal. That's almost like that's that wolf thing that exists where it's like beast mode. We're gonna, you saw this again with like ISIS and the Yazidis and shit. You're just, humans have this tendency to go fucking full werewolf and just like murder an entire population of people.
Yeah. And that term is a relatively new term. I think that term was coined like during or after the Nuremberg trials.
No, that's Holocaust.
But no, like the word genocide.
Huh.
I think that's relatively new.
Well, what's the other one they call they call
ethnic cleansing.
Ethnic cleansing. Yeah.
I think that's
Which
even
I think
newer.
It's even newer. Yeah.
But it's not. But it might be a new term, but this isn't new. Like
because until that time, yeah, there was always like tribal and clannish conflicts, but you didn't have the technology to wipe out an entire group of people until that time.
Right, like turn it into a system.
Yeah, like your clan might go to war with another, and yeah, you might kill all of the rival clan on your side of the mountain, but on the other side of the mountain, they're still running around.
Yeah, there's like no lists.
Yeah, and also
you have like lists of names of like these are the people that were
before World War II and one, basically before the advent of industry, and before we could have before we had this concept of total war, war was not bemoaned like it is now. It was not considered this great crime or this awful part of the human condition that has to be that we have to evolve out of. It was just considered a natural phenomenon, like the changing of the seasons or like a natural disaster. It's like, oh, there was a war and one day there will be another. Just like famine or a freeze.
And that's like where the berserker comes from. Mm-hmm. The berserker was the guy who just went fucking crazy in a hand-to-hand combat situation. Mm-hmm. And they were sort of reputed to have changed into a beast, into an animal, shapeshift, mm-hmm. and then died later, succumbing to their wounds.
Right.
And it just has these ties to that, the werewolf. And werewolves, I mean, I'm so happy you guys all like werewolves, because I thought I was the only weirdo that liked werewolves. Like vampires only scare me because it's almost kind of gay. It's like being trapped by like a gay guy.
Totally.
because they're always like hypnotizing you and you can't move and you think you're making out with a bunch of women, but they're just a bunch of fag hag, right? And then like the real guy comes in like, that's my piece, and they're like, So
I like vampires.
Scared me because I was just like, I don't want to be hypnotized by the gay guys. You know what I mean?
I like vampires too, but yeah, the
you just relate to the werewolf more.
I relate to the Wolfman much more deeply.
Yeah.
And this so this movie, yeah, the second half kind of becoming a full-on monster movie. This kind of opens the door to the werewolf genre as a whole, and why there are so few good werewolf movies as compared to good vampire movies, good zombie movies, good demon movies.
TV shows.
Yeah, TV shows is, I mean, on a technical level, I guess it's just easier to make vampires and zombies than it is a good-looking werewolf. So there's that.
Yeah, that's mostly what it is.
So a lot of werewolf movies follow this formula where you have the werewolf as protagonist. So like the original Wolfman, and they follow a very clear formula. Here is a character who, outside of the context of them becoming a werewolf, is typically not very interesting. They are bitten. There is a moment of doubt, a moment of strange things happening. They turn, they have their first rampage. They find out the truth of their condition and are remorseful. They consider suicide, but don't go through with it. They change again and then are dispatched at the end, usually by a loved one or a love interest. Part of why that fails to be interesting is the werewolf is not a character. And so for a good portion of the movie, your main character is absent. And it's supporting characters dealing with this problem.
Right.
Whereas like, unlike a vampire is, you know, with a few exceptions with a few movies, but like a vampire is a character. You know, the vampire is a personality and a soul throughout the story.
Yeah. The bulk of the werewolf story is usually like, the bulk of the middle is the werewolf just trying to find out how they can cure the werewolfism.
Yeah,
lycanthropy, right?
Yeah, and that's why a lot of the better werewolf, a lot of better werewolf fiction, is the werewolf as antagonist or werewolf as force of nature. So your protagonist is a human that you can relate to, who is interesting, and you have the werewolf as the threat. Yeah. I think that's much more effective.
Like the war within type of thing.
Oh no,
just the enemy within or whatever.
Well, so that's the werewolf as protagonist. So
all right, yeah.
The werewolf is sort of the demon within.
It's hard to make. They tried this with Wes Craven. Wes Craven did like a Scream movie about werewolves.
Oh, Cursed?
Yes.
I never saw it. It looked god awful, but Christina Ricci's hot. I might give it a whirl.
Yeah. You know what I like? Yeah, I don't know, but you're right, because Silver Bullet is a great werewolf movie.
It's my favorite werewolf movie.
Oh, it is. We could have done that one too. I would.
Oh no. I'm glad we did this one.
No, that's a great werewolf movie. For many reasons. You got like the handicapped kid, the drunken uncle, you know, yes. the mystery of who's the werewolf, the like you said, like the protagonist, like how do we stop the werewolf? Then they did this with, you know, Fright Night with the vampire thing as well.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and it does work with the werewolf, but it does kind of ape the vampire narrative of the enemy without. Rather than the enemy within, which I believe is more inherently the werewolf story, which is why it lends itself to this constant repetitiveness in the narrative that in the genre of the werewolf movie.
Yeah,
but you know,
it also doesn't help a lot of werewolf movies where, because a lot of the time the main character is typically not the character who becomes a werewolf is typically not very interesting, that you're waiting for them to turn. You're like, all right, here we go. And whereas instead of feeling fear or pain, you know, on their, you know, or dread on their behalf.
This is like why I like that movie Wolf, but it's also kind of funny because it's not all they had to do to turn Jack Nicholson into a wolf is just like put pointy things on him. Well, pointy ears, pointy nose. I don't know, like, you know, the pointy eyebrows. Like now he's Wolfman. There you go. It wasn't that hard, but I do like that he's like kind of a, like you see him sort of turning into this like prick as a result of him being afflicted with lycanthropy.
Well, and a lot of the thing too is like with werewolf movies more so than vampire or even zombie movies is a lot of time the kind of central themes tend to come off way more heavy-handed. Like in Wolf, that whole movie is just about male vitality.
Good call.
An aging man losing his sexual vitality and being cucked by a younger man, by James Spader.
Sure, there you go. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that whole movie is about.
Right.
Or like the Howling, it's very much, you know, sort of like poking at the sort of sexual revolution and the return to nature that was going on in the 70s. And that's another good one. I like the Howling.
Dante never fails.
Yeah.
Well, small.
But yeah, but that's also part of why I am always on the quest for a good werewolf story.
Me too. Me too. All the
because
time.
because I've liked many, but there's I've never found one that was just like perfect.
Did you see the sequel? An American Werewolf in
Oh,
Paris?
in Paris? Oh, yes, I did.
I did too. I saw it in the theaters
Oh
as a
man,
kid. I had a thing for Julie Delpy as well.
sure.
And I was really obsessed with I bought the soundtrack. I had the soundtrack. I like the song Mouth by Bush.
Bush. Mm-hmm.
Uh it was one of those movies when I saw it with my stepdad when we left, and he was like, that fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I guess it kind of did suck. Now the friend that dies in that movie,
Mm-hmm.
the buddy that dies, I met that guy, and when I lived out in LA for like a year,
Oh,
and
okay.
and he was working at a pot dispensary, and he just got done directing his first feature. And he was very gothed out. If you look at this guy, he's all gothed out. He's got like bangs and shit. He looks like he's in The Cure or something. He's bass player for The Cure. And we struck it up. I said, hey man, because as bad as the movie was, but it was part of my childhood. It was part of my like, hey, I remember going to see that and being obsessed with the song and and also like looking for a girl who looked like Julie Delpy. And I told him all of this. He's like, great, man, what's your email, dude? I'll send you my script. And then he just starts sending me his scripts to like read these scripts, which I never fucking read because I don't read scripts because it's just like, I'm not, but that's what, I guess that's what people in LA do. But it was just a funny, weird occurrence. I mean, American Werewolf in London and Paris was, I think, trying to recreate for modern times like a comedy werewolf movie, and it just didn't work. I think, and they just haven't done it because the CGI werewolf looks terrible. You can't do werewolf CGI. It's just not. It never works. It's really bad. The werewolves in that movie were terrible. Just like in those movies with Kate Beckinsale, those werewolves were terrible too.
Underworld?
Yeah, Underworld. Those werewolves sucked.
Oh yeah.
They don't know how to do a good werewolf.
Is that the one where it's like werewolves fighting vampires?
Yeah. Those suck too. Those were terrible. They won't just give the only thing they've done is like they could remake American Werewolf in London now, but what it'll look like is the remake of Teen Wolf, that MTV fucking, it's like a drama soap opera. It's like, okay, that's what Teen Wolf is. No, that's not what Teen Wolf was. It was like a funny werewolf movie, but that's what they would do to American Werewolf in London is the same thing. It's turned into like a series that's a drama.
Well, have you guys seen The Wolf of Snow Hollow?
No.
That's a newer movie. It's by that guy. I don't remember his name. He did that movie Thunder Road that was kind of big.
I have that movie and I want us to do an episode with it. I just don't know which Twitter personality to ask to come on, but we're going to do that movie. No.
Well, I haven't seen Thunder Road. But from what I hear, Wolf of Snow Hollow is basically Thunder Road, but with a werewolf.
Okay.
And it is a horror comedy, and maybe I need to watch it again, but I enjoyed it. And it does things that I don't like in movies, but it didn't ruin it for me. And I thought it did a good job of the werewolf parts being like harrowing and scary, and the comedy being very effective because it keeps them separate.
Well, does it have to have the comedic element?
Well, this is another problem I have with werewolf movies in general, and I think this movie might be ground zero for it.
Yeah.
I think because this movie was so successful,
and Landis does take like blame for it.
Yeah, well, like
in that making of, he was like, it's my fault, but like the reason why this trend is popular is probably because of this movie.
Well, yeah, like almost all subsequent werewolf movies are tongue in cheek and they are horror comedies. And yeah, part of it I think is the success of this film, but also I think part of it is just the general trend in a lot of horror of the filmmakers, either they're unwilling to be sincere and to take the not take it seriously, but take it seriously enough to where they're trying to scare you. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like.
I feel like if I know Rob Zombie's getting a lot of hate right now, and do credit, his movies, you know, but if there were anyone to maybe do a werewolf movie straight, it would be him, like straight, not with his like goofy stuff. But if he approached it like he did Halloween and did a werewolf movie, like with gypsies and all that shit, you know, without casting his fucking annoying wife. But if, you know, I think he could do something where it would be interesting for a werewolf.
The problem is that my beef with Rob Zombie is that the world that his movies take place in, there's nothing redeemable.
Yeah.
So like in every movie that he's made, it's like, oh, we're in hell. There's every human being is awful. They're all rapists and cannibals and like
or just annoying
they're
kids.
Just scum. They're like subhuman scum. They're literally the worst. Like if a race of aliens were making anti-human propaganda, they would make Rob Zombie movies.
Who then would make a good werewolf movie?
I don't know. I would. But in terms of people who are at it, I couldn't say.
Yeah.
Because you have to have an appreciation for it. But yeah, you can't if you release a werewolf in the world that Rob Zombie lives in, I don't see how he could frame that. I would view that werewolf as like a force of good in that world.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is why
killing those people.
It's why it would have to take place in Europe. It would have to take place in Europe. It would have to take place like in Romania or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like it would have to take place where like an American or gets bit and then he destroys all of Europe or whatever.
Yeah,
or just like American. I don't know. It's all dead. It's all dead. I mean, in terms of modern
ugly
stuff,
American.
Like, yeah.
Is there anything uglier than a werewolf?
You can only really make a werewolf movie, I think, in the past at this point. And I think vampire movies too. Anything modern is just so bad. Like the internet, like all these, the Instagram and Facebook, and all this stuff has kind of ruined any horror.
As far as horror becoming comedy, I wouldn't blame John Landis as much as the entire genre. Maybe that's coming from someone who doesn't appreciate the genre, but horror movies have accidentally sucked for so long that someone making a comedy on purpose seems like a smaller thing than the genre being accidentally funny for decades.
Yeah, you're right. I guess you can't really take it too serious.
So it's hard to make the
80s, but the 80s, the 80s were good at taking that and making it serious.
Well, and the problem too with supernatural horror is because so few people have a sense of the mystical or the supernatural, because few people believe in anything greater than themselves. That is just lost on a lot of people.
I mean, you have people believing like evil isn't real.
Yeah.
And these are like pretty smart people who are probably in effect also committing evil, which is why they're sort of like self-justifying it, being like, there's no such thing as evil.
Right.
It's not me. It's just psychological. It's like we've lost the sense that it's that thing that that Zizek was talking about with the Joker, and then he went back on. But I think the first take was better, which was that like the Dark Knight Joker is better than the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, because the Dark Knight Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, is like, there's no reason for this guy. This guy just exists. And then in Joaquin Phoenix Jokerland, it's like, no, but he exists because he was beaten as a child and he has all of these bad things happen to him that make him do, he lashes out. But you can't have a werewolf movie if you don't believe in just evil. Like there's just things, people, groups, individuals, whatever, that are just fucking evil. Yeah, there's no explanation for it. Those things.
Zizek is the Wolfman.
Well, evil is a force of nature or a force of supernature that takes hold of you. But it is a real thing. It is a palpable thing, and it is a powerful thing, and it possesses you.
Yes. And in effect, the Incredible Hulk is the sort of modern retelling of the wolf.
Yes.
And every man has this animalistic instinct to them, which, when after drinking a potion made by some weirdo internet person, will turn you into this evil thing. But
it could be spinach in the case of Popeye.
Well, and there's the.
But he wasn't evil. He was good.
There's the right opportunity for someone who is smart enough and skilled enough to make an effective werewolf movie set contemporarily. Because I also believe, I feel like it's almost impossible to make a good movie set in our time without addressing our time and being feeling contempt for it. Maybe that's just me.
Well, the guy to play the werewolf is Joaquin Phoenix.
I mean, maybe, but you look at, if someone with balls, could explore this completely neutered, sexless, emasculated time that we live in, and use the werewolf as a parable or an allegory for that. The problem is the wrong person would get a hold of that and basically make it just more like anti-masculine, propaganda about how all men should be neutered or some shit.
Well, the werewolf would be the woman, which it already was in American Werewolf in Paris. And so
and they'll just turn it into some girl boss shit where she goes around and kills men.
Yeah, or some comment on toxic masculinity.
You go, girl. Nice mutilation.
Yeah. But okay. But what I love about the movie at the end is that it just ends. And I love, for me, I always think that there is this moment where I'm like, the jaw loosens, the eyes relax, and you think the werewolf is going to turn back into David, or she's going to have some moment with the wolf, and it doesn't. He just gets shot. She's fucking dead. Boom, ball with a ball, bang, 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 ding dong, ding dong.
Yeah.
That's one of the best way to end a movie.
Yeah. Well, in the end, love was not enough.
Oh no,
love was not enough. Well,
that's the way the legend goes. You have to kill it.
You got to kill it, and it's got to be killed by the one you love. And she kind of gets him killed.
Yeah, I mean, she helps facilitate it.
Yeah, she helps facilitate the killing. And it's a great way to end the movie. There's no explanation. Everything you were just invested in, everything that you were just following, it all just stops. Movie's over. Go home, folks. I think that's the way to end the movie. And I think that's the way. I think that's the way to end this episode.
Bada bang bang bang, dude.
Now let's go around to Trevor and the Wolfman with our. Well, let's go Wolfman and Trevor with our final thoughts. I think I mean, I hope, obviously, if you haven't seen this fucking movie, see the fucking movie, drink the fucking gin, you're going to have a good fucking time before you go out on Halloween night. Have a good, safe Halloween night. And don't go werewolf.
Yeah, don't
Keep
go
it
full
cool.
werewolf.
Keep it cool. Wolfman, what do you got?
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen this, you should absolutely check it out. If you have, you should watch it again. Yes, have a blast this Halloween. Enjoy yourself. Yeah, don't wolf out. Wolf responsibly. Yeah, no. Enjoy yourselves, gang. Howl at the moon.
Oh.
What do you got, Trev?
I just wanted to touch on I think the funniest part of the movie. I'm more of a comedy guy than a horror guy. And so my favorite scene and the funniest scene to me was in the porno theater towards the end there.
Yeah.
It was cool to have his victims collected, and that was a funny scene for many reasons. It was a great setting for the scene, and just the depiction of British pornography was hilarious.
So okay, I gotta stop you there because they made that porno. John Landis made that porno,
which is even better.
Yeah.
I mean, it was obviously a joke. I knew that wasn't real because it was too on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where he like walks in and interrupts them, and then they just start talking, and
I don't even know you. Oh.
Yeah, I didn't even know. Oh, not
Good
you.
movie.
Yeah. So I wanted to give some props to that scene. That's yeah.
That's it. Your final thought?
I love these cross-cultural ribbings. This is around the same time as A Fish Called Wanda, after all, and so it was very popular for Americans to make fun of the British and vice versa. So I think that was a nice dig.
All right. Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks, folks, with like we said, the last goodbye. But I hope you have for the long goodbye. Long goodbye. I hope you guys have a great Halloween. Get into the spirit. Go have fun. Wearing a mask is optional, and make it a fun mask. Make it a rebel mask. Make it a werewolf mask. See you next time.